just a little bit about the roundtable today. This roundtable will be a working session, not a TED Talk. Definitely not a demo of anything. And we're going to go around the room and try to talk about how we figured things out. So kind of how we did Failing Daily for all of us this year. We deployed tools without deciding what problem they solved was one thing one of us did. Announced initiatives that quietly vanished within 90 days. I'm sure you guys did that. Confused motion with progress and confidently said, this will be easy, and then found out that it wasn't. Kind of the way I want to set this up is I want to talk about AI not as the future, but as really the next constant, the thing we need to do. And we're all living that right now in small business and trying to implement it. And these are the things I'm sure we'll do and we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll overestimate it, underestimate it, misapply it, under-own it, over-govern it, and then probably deploy it in places where it doesn't belong. So we're going to try to figure out how many of those things we did wrong tonight and then try to avoid doing them again. So let's start off with if your kind of AI personal moment. If we want to go around, I'm interested if you had, I certainly did, if you had kind of a moment you were like, oh, this thing's going to have an impact. You want to start?
Sure. I've been promoting AI within the company for years, actually, and this just happened 3 weeks ago where I had my moment, so I guess I'm a late bloomer. But a client of ours came to us and their hair was on fire for developing a scoping document, deliverables, the whole project plan for something that we hadn't even been involved in. And we pulled together all the background documentation, and it was done within like an hour. But what surprised me and what had me have my moment was how good it was. I just did not expect, I don't think our team could have developed that quality of a document in weeks. So that shocked me.
Yeah. It's amazing, right? What did you use for a tool?
I don't know, because I didn't do it. Because we're right now. I would bet that it was Gemini, because right now our three big ones are Salesforce's embedded AI, Gemini, and Microsoft's Copilot.
Okay. Yep. Or big Copilot. Okay, good. Who else?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
You said the last 60 days. So I've been playing with AI like everybody else since it came out, and I've found that the part that bothered me the most was having it do the original draft. And it's crazy that I think that way, because it feels like that's the big win for many people. You're not starting from a blank sheet of paper. You can have it draft content. But if I'm writing an email, especially to people that work here, I feel like it's got to be my words, and then I'll use AI to help make it more concise or clean it up. So I was filling out a form, and I think there were 8 questions, and they were all about me. So it was very difficult to ready, because it just feels awkward to talk about yourself in the third person. But it was for the company, not for me, but it was about me. And I got through 7 of the questions. Maybe it was 6 questions, and I got through 5. I had 1 left to go, and I was so exhausted of thinking it through and writing it. But I had been using Copilot, Microsoft's Copilot, to get the word count down. I was limited to a certain number of characters, and I kept going over, just like anybody that writes proposals, and it was doing good with that. So I got to that last question and thought, let me just throw the question to Copilot. And because it had the context of the rest of what I did, it picked up immediately on what I was trying to do. I was trying to tell a story through all 8 questions. So I was answering the question, but I was building up to really just tell one story. And it picked up on that concept and wrote it, and I was stunned how good it was, how quick it was, because it had all that context. And I hadn't planned to do it. I was just done. I was exhausted and didn't want to do it anymore. So I did edit that final question that it gave me, and I did go back and forth with it a little bit, but that was the first time I had used it to start content. And I've gotten and this was, by the way, about a week ago, and I got comfortable enough that I've now done it 3 more times since then, including what I thought was a very personal note that I sent to somebody. And I'm realizing, you know what? It does know me. It knows my voice. And I have to stop thinking about this as though it's faking it, because it's not. It's not like I'm putting it in there, I'm getting the response, and I'm sending it out without looking at it. I'm not telling it, hey, send this person an email, with something like this. Of course not. You're using it as a tool to help you find the right words, but they are your words.
I think my AI adoption has been embarrassingly slow is probably the best way I can put it. And I think kind of like Larry said, I think I've been using AI more as an editing tool and a rewriting tool than as a tool to actually create proactively. I think my AI moment and kind of an aha for me was actually, and I think this speaks to maybe the generational challenges that some of us have with technology in general, and this obviously speaks to this, is I have two sons in working professionally now. Had dinner with them a week or so ago on one of their birthdays, 25 years old. And to me being stunned and his older brother being stunned, my middle son just started to walk through how he was using Copilot. He's in a sales environment for a large technology consulting services firm. How he started going through about how everything he's doing with AI and how he's building agents, and he's got different agents based on his different prospects and firms that he's calling, and how he loads it with information, and then how he asks it to curate emails for him based on tone, based on professional, based on being personal. And candidly, he went on, and this was, I want to disparage my son here in public, but my son was not going to be a rocket scientist. He was not going to be a doctor. He made it through high school and college. And the great part is we said, how did you learn to do this? And he goes, I asked AI to tell me how to do it. So I didn't know how to do it. I asked it, it told me how to do it. He goes, now I don't do anything without it. It controls every outbound communication that I have. He's been in the workforce only since January and basically took an afternoon. He goes, I took 5 hours on an afternoon and basically figured this out.
Wow.
That was an aha moment for me in that, first of all, I need to find 5 hours to learn how to do that. But with the simplicity and just a little curiosity, how he's been able to basically embed AI in really everything he's doing every day in his communication.
Joe,
kind of blew me away.
Can I ask you, was that sanctioned tools by the company? Did they arm him with those tools, or did he just go off on his own?
No, I think this was Microsoft Copilot as a part of his technology stack that he had. I think there was probably some introduction to, hey, these are these tools here. This is how you use it, but it seemed like it was a very self-taught exercise that he went through, that he kind of learned. Maybe they said, hey, you can start using some of these things, and just curiosity and taking some time. And then when he started telling me that he has multiple agents, I kind of was like, what are you talking about? Like, who is this, and what have you done with my son? So that was a real aha moment for me, literally in the next 2 weeks, of how professionals very quickly are getting up to speed and changing how they work every day utilizing these tools.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah. How about you?
So I feel like I keep having aha moments with it. So the most recent one, seeing that it's the 60 days, was I actually had it take a photograph. So I was using ChatGPT 5.3, and I do a lot of photo editing, and using ChatGPT to actually go in and manipulate and pull out color samples and things like that from photos. So I was trying to get an image that I wanted it to have blocked out into a certain spectrum of colors. And so I kept playing. I get trapped in this hole. I don't know if you guys have this happen, where I keep trying to outfool my prompts. Like, I keep trying to make the perfect prompt and thinking that I can refine the prompt to get exactly what I want with one request, instead of having a dialogue back and forth. You know what I mean? And then, so one of the aha moments more recently is having the iteration dialogue back and forth with it more and more, where it's more conversational to get what I want, instead of trying to keep crafting the perfect prompt. The other thing that was kind of a hit in the head was, I'm complaining about this to one of my employees, and he goes, just ask it to tell you what you need to write for a prompt. And I said, well, that's obvious, and I didn't think about that. You know what I mean? So I started asking. So now I'm using the AI to make the prompts. and hopefully I can just work my way out of the whole process altogether. Right? But I think the aha to me was, I similar to some of the examples you guys are saying, a lot of what I had been using it for was for writing and communications and developing language, cleaning up my language, things like that. And I have more recently been trying to purposely find other use cases that were not narrative. Does that make sense? And the imagery stuff for me, just for the kind of work that I do, it kind of blew my mind because it was giving me all kinds of data that was not necessarily just a write-up, that I could actually print out, use, actually put into other applications, things like that. The agents thing is another thing that is more of a new recent thing also is, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but especially working in GovCon, there seems to be this culture of wanting the automation to help you get to a point, but then still have human intervention. And the agents really want to break through that barrier. You know what I mean? They want it where you're like, no, you don't need to approve the email. It's just going to send out the emails kind of thing. And I still have my own kind of like, I still want to read it myself first, And I notice now my employees starting to see me as that barrier. And sometimes that's an interesting conversation, I think, to have. Just it's a debate I have internally. Is at what point do I not relinquish? I don't think that the right way to say it would be relinquish it, but like, where do you get to the point where you're like, let it do its job? Because the agents want to do the job. And there are going to be obviously those things you want to make sure you review, right? I don't want to send out an email for a partnering agreement or something like that and not read it, not know what we're talking about. But at the same time, there's going to be elements of that. I had one where, and again, I kind of dip in and dip out of using it, right? And I don't normally use it in spreadsheets. It's just not my natural place to work in. I'm usually more in Word or I'm more in like a image kind of thing, right? And I had one scenario, this is going back maybe 2 months, where I had this huge spreadsheet of stuff and I literally just, and this was Copilot. I don't use Copilot as much as I think you guys, I use chat more. But I used Copilot and I just told it, I'm just looking for, it was this huge list of stuff with multiple tabs. And so similar kind of thing is I got a prompt where I basically just said, just make a new tab where you pull out this stuff. And I could not believe how accurate it was. It was actually really amazing. And literally a whole day's worth of work. And it did it in like 3 minutes. like it was totally insane, But there's a lot of those. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of those pieces.
You should tell them the one you were telling me. Well, first of all, this trip last year was where you got me to use AI, and I literally, you started telling me about AI, or I think ChatGPT at the time. That was my, and I was like, what is this? Seriously, I was like, what is this?
Nerd.
I didn't know you're a nerd.
I'm the guy who's having
What
his
are you doing,
Cybertruck
dude?
drive him around.
I know.
Steer.
But
Yeah,
I had no idea about it. But tell them about just because it's small, but I thought it was this generational thing.
Yeah.
Where Scott was like, why are you putting documents in folders?
So yeah, and I still have a hang up with this even after all that. It's just a mental thing. So I spent so much time. One of my employees was teasing me about this, but I was organizing. You'd get contracts, you'd have whatever, you'd have all these different disbursements and all these other things. And I would spend time putting them into folders and have subfolders and be, here's all the invoices from this year, and I'd break them out. And one of my employees was finally like, why are you doing that? Like, you're wasting so much time. And I said, well, so I can find them faster. He's like, you don't ever have to do that. And he goes, just drop it all in there and then tell AI what you're looking for, and it's just going to give it to you. And I still have a mental block with that because I want to see it organized. But now he says, yeah, we'll just have it organized. Like, you could also have it organized.
No, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, but I mean, but back when you and I first had that conversation, it wouldn't do that because it wouldn't rearrange documents that way. You know what I mean? It would work within a document, but it wouldn't work within a folder structure that way.
Mental note.
Now
Ask how to do that.
Yeah, now it will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are all. It is a mind shift in how you think about working. Like something like that, to me, the organization of it is part of the work. I mean, being organized and being able to work efficiently. And now it's kind of turned that on its ear where no, you don't need to do that. Just let it do it. But again, that turns into the trust thing, like the agents thing. You know what I mean? Do you trust it that it's going to organize?
So Matt, on the agents,
Yeah.
my thought was I have this muscle memory problem of every time a random thought goes through my head, it turns out I can send a Teams message to almost anyone in my company and they reply pretty quickly. I get a level of service that's ridiculous, and I do that too much. When I could go into Copilot and say, ask the same question, and usually get a pretty reliable answer in the moment.
Right.
And I felt that I need an agent to intercept every text message or Teams message I send at this point to say, wait a sec, let me go find that answer for you first. So maybe the way to get comfortable with it is have it work on you first,
Yeah.
autonomously, if you will, so that you can gain some trust in it. Because like you, there's no way I'm going to just let it go do something
Right.
like send out a teaming agreement or something like that.
Right.
So maybe we got to think internally. And you're blowing my mind with the organizing files thing, because I gave up on, what do they call it? Filing versus piling, or piling versus filing.
Right. Right.
I gave up on filing a long time ago, and I have every file from forever, and it's a complete mess, and some of it's got to go. And all I can think about here is unleashing AI on that mess, because it bothers me. It's not right.
Yeah.
But here's the other piece of it that I worry about is sometimes the act of assembling the information. I have an event tomorrow night I'm going to, and I fed the attendee list into Copilot. I said, tell me something about everybody that's going to be there.
Right.
What are the things I ought to be thinking about, all that kind of stuff. And then it gave me the answer, and I didn't feel like reading it, because the act of gathering it is usually how I digest it.
Right.
And now I've got to get my head wrapped around that I'm going to just read this.
It's a different way to think, though. It's
Right.
a different way to think. Yeah.
Right. So
That's actually another. Sorry, not to switch it, but that's another thing that always pops for me is in writing things. Like we had a situation where I was helping write a proposal, I think, or something, and we were writing a technical approach, and it was for a subject matter that I know, but I wanted to make sure I was not missing anything. And so it got to the point where I was literally just asking it, hey, just search the web. What am I not thinking of? And I was shocked how much, like how many things, because it was a risk analysis. There was a risk box, in there. And I thought of the regular things I would normally think for the industry that I'm in. And then I said, what am I not, and I literally just said it that open-ended. What am I not thinking of? And it gave me it wasn't like 2 or 3. It gave me like a dozen other things. And some of them were overkill, but I mean, it was just shocking how much more it was providing,
The first aha moment is how quickly you can get to second and third order effect framing, right? So the natural first question, and then this branch, this sequel, this branch, this sequel. It allows you to give much more detailed guidance, and therefore enables your team to produce their level of output that much faster. The aha moment came once I had mastered that, handing out that guidance. You could quickly tell when what you got back was strictly AI. So ChatGPT, Gemini, you can read the lack of empathy, the lack of context, the lack of timing, the lack of trust-based relationship. You can read that this is just data. So that was aha number one. The younger generation are brilliant, right? They get this tool like I don't. I still jones out about not having things filed in folders, right? They're very comfortable with that. They lack the reps and sets to apply, time and multiple iterations to something. So a little bit of an aha. It opened up an opportunity to do coaching, and coach towards that end. Not sure I have the complete answer on it yet, but once I spotted it, a lot of what we do is key personalities. So we'll look at key stakeholders and champions and skeptics and relationships within an ecosystem. And we'll do assessments of those relationships, right? Once you figure out how to apply AI against that, you can get to a much deeper statistical level very quickly, and then make a conscious shift to now we're going to get away from a statistical approach and go to a human-based approach. So I'm no longer concerned about facts and figures. Now I want to know why that person thinks, acts that way, right? Is it their influencers? Is their environment, their family, et cetera, et cetera? I would say that was my key takeaway, key aha.
But you're making that shift, right?
Yeah,
To switch, I mean,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I got two. Yeah. So the aha moment for me in a positive way was one of the arms of what we run is a foundation where we hire grad students to teach them about national security and tech and help them get jobs afterwards. And we have a young woman who's part of our core team, and we were looking for fundraisers, funders, and people we could go to. Donors is the word, actually. We were looking for donors. And so in an afternoon, I said, hey, we're going to go out and figure out who we know in our network we can canvas, who are the high net worth individuals. And she came back like 45 minutes later with a list of like senior DC people we had invited to an event or something, and she had them broken out by how much, the statistics she had on them in terms of income, interests, and why they were likely to be donors to this nonprofit foundation. I was just like, who did you pay to do this? And she's like, no, I just used some AI tool to build this out. And I'm like, I got to learn more about this, right? On the positive side, and I'm still working towards that. On the negative side, and you laugh at me over this one, so we have 3 cohorts of these grad students who apply every semester. We take about 10. We had like 300 apply over the last couple of semesters. And we don't ask them to write a cover letter. We ask for 3 sentences on why they would be a good candidate. And I like to read the 3 sentences because I read them, and sometimes they're all full of buzzwords, and you could tell there's not a personal touch to those 3 sentences. Vices, look, I'm very interested in national security. You guys have a track record of helping people, and I will, work my ass off if you hire me, right? That kind of direct thing is not generally what you get at AI. It's trying to use the buzzwords. So I try to go through the 300 and find the best candidates who haven't really leveraged AI to write their 3 sentences. So that's still me being a little bit of a Luddite. But
I appreciate you bringing that out. We're actually struggling right now with virtual interviews, like not because we're catching people reading AI generated stuff off to the side of their camera, and we've caught a few of them, and that's legit scary. Like, yeah, you can catch it in the if somebody is handing in an application or something, but we were looking up. Okay, so remind me, when someone's being creative, which way do they look? And when someone is right, and so we're having to train our folks on that. Yeah, like literally, because they've got an AI listening to the interview, and it's answering the questions that we ask.
you mean while you're asking?
Yeah.
The AI is giving them the answers to read.
The AI is giving them the answers and showing it right here, and they're looking at the camera right there. So they're kind of just glancing off to the side.
Yeah.
Wait till they have an avatar generated. and
Yeah, that's what I was
actually,
thinking, yeah.
That's actually doing the interview. You don't know.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine is going to be something that is going to start getting built in. Because, tell them about one of your employees. They're prepping for orals and what the government's making them do because of all that.
Is this
Matt,
you have to keep your hands on the table? And,
they have to,
Yeah.
I can tell.
You can tell it, yeah.
So we work together with a lot of proposal stuff. One of his guys is prepping for orals because a lot of the government contracts now they're making you do orals, right? And assuming it's for the same reason, when they do the orals, they have to show their hands throughout the entire video.
So that they're not.
But it's
typing.
still
So that
over
they're-
video. So
It
again, they
is.
could have an AI going.
That's fair enough, but the way the
Listen.
government's
Listen,
Yeah.
but
listening
the,
and
but the
answering.
way but the way the government's approaching it to try and offset it is they're making them show their hands
Yeah.
while they're talking on camera.
So isn't that really one of the frictions that's coming out about through this new capability, right? So
Yeah.
we can get framing data much faster than any of us could do. I mean, in an hour, you can get something that would take a week. And so you frame this out. This younger generation, this is their environment. Like
Right.
they did junior high and high school and now college with these tools
Yep.
or parts of them. And so
Yeah.
they're very, very comfortable. What they're not comfortable with is the reps and sets, the human interface, the empathy, the context. And you see that when they're reading an answer off a screen. So
Right.
to me, there's our opportunity. We can get data much faster. Our risk and where we have to focus is, okay, let's get beyond that and bring back this human component. And I know we're going to get to, what controls and
Well, but to your point though, so one experience that I've been through is we had a guy who we were bringing in to actually talk to another team of guys from Bill's company, and he's a data guy. He did all kinds of development and stuff for a bunch of different places, and we had a interview with him where he was talking to some of their experts, and they had a long dialogue that was really kind of narrative based. It wasn't canned questions. It was more of just a comfort level kind of conversation, more a get to know you kind of atmosphere. But honestly, they learned more about his experience and knowledge of the topic from it, but it takes so much time and you can't can it to go over 20 applicants, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like in their case,
Which sometimes you
they,
need to.
our meeting with the guy had to have been 45 minutes, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And there was storytelling and there was experience telling and things like
Was it
that.
virtual or in
It
person?
was virtual, but in this particular case, I had brought the guy and I knew the guy, so I knew he was the real deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we were trying to get him to get to know some of the guys from his Texas crew, so it was all virtual. But they spent the time to really understand his background. He was telling stories and things like that. It wasn't just answering questions.
So Phil, your point though, it's really intriguing to me is, other than that they're using AI without informing you that they're using it, I'm just sitting here thinking in a technical interview scenario, if they're not using AI, I almost feel that disqualifies them for the job. I mean, if I'm going to ask you esoteric questions about syntax and programming languages, which I was never a fan of, it'd be like, well, I would search it on Google 10 years ago or 5 years ago if I didn't remember the syntax, and then, IntelliSense when it autocomplete when in an IDE. But now if we have developers that are not using AI, that's a bigger problem than they are. So I think the issue is that they're not being genuine about it. They're having it record the meeting, not record, but listen in, and they're giving it real-time prompts to help them, as opposed to them saying, well, I would use AI in a real-world scenario to answer that question. So it again, almost DQs them if they're not using it.
Well, but maybe. I mean, not all of our federal government clients have really turned on. I mean,
Good point.
EPA is turned on like whatever the predecessor to copilot was. I mean, they're so far behind, right? So I don't know about that.
Well, and I would argue also, I know for our devs and stuff, they leverage AI all the time, but they end up, because of hallucination and stuff like that, they end up having to correct things and stuff. So I totally agree that you're falling behind if you're not using it. Like we've had this conversation. You're literally, we had this great conversation one time where I told him, they are literally wasting your money if they're not spending time on AI because they're doing things longer. They're not working at the speed of business if they're not using AI. But ultimately, they still have to have the expertise to know if it's wrong. I mean, we see that all the time. We get hallucinations all the time, especially when we're doing proposal writing, where it'll try and leverage something we wrote in an RFI And we're like, no, that can't go in a proposal. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and you have to
absolutely.
still know what to work with.
You
know
need
what I mean?
good trained human operators of
Yes.
AI. So we have to change the questions we're asking. And I think you were getting to this point, Matt, earlier, where you get to know the person and you discuss things that are a little bit more theoretical or how you think about it. And of course, AI in that situation could still be prompting them and helping them. But I think we have to change the way we interview people and the way we talk to people. Ideally, face to face would be helpful. But it's an intriguing problem because you want them to use AI, but you want them to be honest about what they're using it for. And what you guys were talking about, I think both of you, it's similar to what I said earlier. It's the process of figuring things out. You lose that depth that occurs when AI just gives you the answer and then you just parrot it back without thinking it through. The process of getting the answer, that's what I meant earlier, where the process of writing, it helps me think through the problem. So having AI do the writing avoids me getting the thinking time
Yeah.
that I get when I'm doing
Yeah.
the writing.
So again, military background, right? I think about the number of meetings where I was a minion to a senior, and I was in a room taking notes, and in the process, my professional development was exponentially higher than my minion counterpart who wasn't in the room taking notes. Now, as a senior, I don't need a minion in the room taking notes because I'm going to get a summary. Now, what does that mean in terms of professional development for the next generation who's coming up without that, right? It's something to consider because at some point, who backfills us if they haven't had the reps and sets that you just heard Val say? And look, I love it. What you can do at speed, particularly with data, is impressive and it continues to grow. But you got to think about also the human dynamic in terms of what's going on. And then to me, in terms of an interview, I'm going to make sure next time I'm interviewing, hey, let's understand or put out. AI isn't part of the personal interview part of a conversation, right?
We know it wrote your resume.
Right. Correct. Yeah. Right.
I know one of our guys put this in my head that when you're doing interviews, how do you know they're not using AI to answer the questions? And he turned it around on me and said, how do you know if you're being interviewed that AI is not interviewing you and we end up working for AI agents that are now hiring us to do their work because it's cheaper than running the consumption in the background. Exactly. So this you go down that wormhole pretty quick.
But that's
we have to expect we're being interviewed by AI.
yeah.
In some of the questions you get asked, you can hear it.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to work for AI.
Right.
I don't mind being interviewed for it. I just want to know I'm not employed by AI.
I do find that a fascinating topic, though, the generation coming in.
Yeah.
And we had this, so we used to work with contract writing systems, right? And one of the interesting things that's been happening there is this was even before AI, the expectation of young people coming out with a business degree. And then the government would have a 7-9-11 kind of process where they would speed them through the GS ranks and stuff. But you still had to get a warrant to award a contract, let's say, things like that. There's an expectation of time and seat because you have to live through so many business deals, negotiations, hot washes, all those things. And that's all real experience. That's not something you're going to read up on. You know what I mean? You have to live through it. And that's an interesting thing to me is, they want to leverage the AI tools to help slipstream those processes. We in fact, we responded to something to Aberdeen about that, about AI tools to help contracting. And all I could think the whole time we were pitching it, because it's a great idea, they can use it for all these different things. But what's that bleeding edge going to be where a kid comes out of, I say a kid, but a person graduates with so many hours of business degree, but they have no experience of actually, working that.
How do we know that it won't be good enough?
Right.
And that's
you
a
just-
good point,
you
too.
just said,
No, that's a
we
good
don't
point,
have that
too.
experience, and you just said, okay, I used to learn because I did all the research, blah blah blah. Now I get the final product, and then I have to learn to think differently. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Well, what is this kid who's sitting in the meeting with you, Tony, and he gets the AI generated notes summarized, and he's learning something from that. The question is, how much of that is he learning versus what you learned going through your career, and then the interaction. I mean, sure, it's not 100%, but they're not learning nothing if they're taking the time to be the one that reads the notes.
I don't disagree with
Or
that
something.
at all. Yeah,
So,
I don't.
just-
and
who
I
knows?
think, to that point, like in the old days before AI,
The old days, like a year ago.
Yeah. When we all came in the room, the idea was like, how would you grade trade-offs if you didn't have the experience? But you could easily have AI do, hey, what are the reasonable trade-offs for blah 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 blah? You know what I mean? And so I totally.
Or you could ask it for, tell me the trade-offs I didn't think of.
Exactly.
And
So
now you're learning more than you've learned.
I totally agree with that. But then when you get down to obligating the money, they're not going to imprison the AI if you did it
No,
wrong.
that's true. You gotta-
Right?
maybe that's the, yeah.
No, you know what I'm
So-
saying? So
One of my lessons or things is just that obviously you need to read the final product. I mean, it's like, and that's,
Fair enough.
the kids might do that more than we would. That's if they can learn that, they might be all right with this. The younger people doing it, but my lessons were just like simpler in some ways. Like to me it was. And it was fairly recently. I think I put 60 days because, which I think that was probably AI actually. But I think I put 60 days because for me, my experience has been in the last 60 days. Like I've learned more in the last 2 months than I've learned in the last 2 years. Hands down, because I'm just using it to learn. But mine was, I just asked it what I did in January or in December, I think. And I couldn't believe what it pulled. I use Copilot. Everything I do is in 365. Therefore, it knows my meetings. It had my recorded meetings, the doc, it had everything, and I was blown away. And then that just sent me down the rabbit hole, and I sent you a PowerPoint presentation with an avatar.
And I didn't know it. I didn't know. I thought it was you, Bill. I thought it was you presenting because I
I
commented.
knew that.
I commented back and I said, "Hey, you mispronounced this word. You're reading because I forgot what the word was." But
No, you know what it was? Instead of saying
live instead of live.
oh,
or
there was
something.
live instead of live, and then there was, instead of saying IPTA, my company,
IPTA,
it said
yeah.
IPTA.
Yeah. I was like, that's weird. I didn't know you pronounced that.
Right? It was.
The point that we were talking about earlier too, though, about learning and how do you learn. I remember this coming up as a software developer. People said, "Oh, you're using the second or third generation language, so you're not doing things like memory
Right.
management."
You didn't start with assembler.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be a stud.
That's right, and it's so
yeah.
easy now because you don't have to. Memory is cheap. You don't have to clean up your own memory dumps and memory management, I should say. And you can drag and drop controls on a form, and and then quicker access to data layers. We don't code that anymore. We're just dragging and dropping. So I think we've got to be careful, right? To Bill's point, it's a new way of learning, and maybe another way to think about it is they don't need to waste their time on things, the collective human knowledge that we've already acquired, so they can actually think on a different level that only humans can think on, because AI, I think, at this point, is really replicating all known human knowledge to date. I don't know how much novel things it's bringing. So the younger folks that are using this natively are not burdened trying to catch up to us. They're already where we're at, and now they can build on top of that. So maybe there's something to that. I mean, I think AI is coming up with novel ideas too, which that's the kind of the scariest thing. But if it's really just replicating all of human knowledge to date, maybe it's a good thing that they don't need to waste time on that. I don't know.
So there's been a standard for, it seems like ever, that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert, whether baseball player, coder, or pilot, or whatever. So does that 10,000 hours now abbreviate because some of the routine we can learn faster and some of the intermediate we can learn faster? Maybe so. Maybe it's not 10,000 hours. Maybe it's 5,000. You said you learned as much in 2 months as you'd learned in 2 years.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe that's our
Which wasn't
model.
much, but I'm just saying.
Maybe that's our model, because at the end of the day, AI is going to do routine things routinely. It's going to speed up the routine. It's going to frame out the routine. I don't know that it ever takes on the personal component. Maybe parts of it, but I can't see it building 10,000 hours of expertise in the human dimension. And our youngsters, and I use that term lightly, are phenomenal with these database systems. And so Can they gain expertise faster? Probably. How do we build in the human component to match the digital component? I think becomes a target area.
So let me just say a theory that I have, and then I'm going to call it a theory right now. It's unproven, and then just tie it to the kind of the next two things are where are we using it that it works and where is it breaking down. But my theory is something like when we had the digital revolution, computers, everyone thought, oh, we're going to lose jobs, and then of course it's productivity launches. What I think it did was eliminated a lot of human creativity in at least our services workforce. So you weren't like you're reading email all day or you're working on a spreadsheet, and that's more efficient than it was, but it's not more creative. And what I've found, and I think we're going to find, is that AI has allowed us to free up time because we're taking these non-value add activities and giving it to AI, and then now we have to add back human creativity. So that's a launch in creativity. So we actually are going to be, in my view, more creative because of this, which is, it struck me when you said, I have to think differently about it. Well, you have to be creative in your thinking now. The data is all there for you. Now you need to be creative. So I guess the question to all of you is, in light of that, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but where are we using it that it's actually working in our companies, and where does it break down, whether it's just not working or it just blows up?
Well, I think one of the obvious ones that we keep saying is the research, right? Like doing, instead of us going and scanning the web, and obviously that's an obvious, like, all day long. It does the research for you super easy. The creativity component, it's funny because we see a break in that in our company because I'm an artsy fartsy guy. So to me, freeing me up to do the creative is a value add to me. But I have had employees that are like, they want us to do the research. They don't feel the freedom of being creative necessarily. You know what I mean? And it's not that it's a struggle or a bad thing or anything like that. But I, as a boss, have been trying to figure out how I incentivize that, because to me it just comes naturally. Like if I have the extra time, I'm kind of more of a creative thinker. You know what I mean? It's just my background.
When it comes to creativity and thinking through things, the way I hear it used by, I think, the people that are on the edge is it's a thought partner. I used to, I tell the same story all the time. I don't want to tell the whole thing here, but I used to call my boss on my way home from the job, and I would tell him how the day went and ask for advice. And that's how I learned. And later in life, I was getting that call, and I lived really far. And this one guy, he called me all the time. He's still here. And I realized I'd put it on mute half the time as the guy listening, because I realized I wasn't really giving him advice. He was sounding it out, and he just needed somebody on the phone. And I'd throw it on mute. Half the time I was listening, the other half I wasn't. And I joke with this guy Jason about it now, because I was doing the same thing prior with the guy that I leaned on, Lance. And my point is that I think some of the most effective users of AI, that's what they use it as. They're on their morning walk with their dog, and they're talking to it, or they're on their drive and they're talking to AI and sounding things out and getting to be creative with it. Yeah. And this is a thought partner it's half the price. There's only one of you on the phone. That guy doesn't get bored on the other end of the call. It's always listening to you. It's tracking everything. It's getting to know you. And I think there are real use cases where it can spark creativity.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's obvious in the government, on the defense side in particular, large sets of data. If you're trying to pull out markers that matter, right? So you're an intel analyst and you're trying to go through a database, particularly imagery kind of stuff, it'll pull out the 2 or 3 images of a ship, and then there's a human in the loop to go, okay, of the 3 it pulled, that's the one that kinetically may be a target, or we need to focus resources on to kind of keep an eye on. That, to me, in terms of large volumes of data that you're trying to pull out, the markers like you talked about, Matt, you talked about your Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's powerful to me. Where you just went, and I forget what your first name is. Larry, sorry. Yeah. Larry, where you went in terms of using it as a sounding board is a level of nuance I haven't gotten to in terms of thinking about AI, right? Now, in Val's case, where Val talked about, well, the human thing, I thought of, well, I know people are talking to AI as if it's a girlfriend kind of So there are algorithms, which is what we're talking about here, that do that kind of thing. So I don't think we know what the limits are yet.
Yeah, and I think that your use case too. I like I've heard generals talk about this, shortening the kill chain. It's not about having it pull the trigger, but reducing the decision-making time to order that, finding the needle in the haystack, doing the analytical work, but keeping that human there. Bill, to your question about where are we using it and where are we not, my answer is everywhere and nowhere. I know that throughout the company it's being used. We track the metrics. We know it's being used, but to me, the next level that I'm trying to get the company to is organized usage. Right now, it's an individual productivity tool, and I think about it from two levels, really two major use cases. The first is internal work, contracts, accounting, human resources, whatever. Secondly, the way we deliver to our clients, and I'm admittedly far more focused on how we deliver to our clients because the professional services business is being majorly disrupted by this technology, especially if your deliverable is writing code, because AI is really good at writing code. And yes, I do believe you need human operators to do this, but what the first level was give everybody tools, give everybody some training, get them access, get them productive, and pass those benefits to our customers too, so they can think on a different level of magnitude of impact that we can have on our clients. Instead of writing code that they innately know how to do, but it takes time to do, they can spend those gained cycles thinking through how we can instruct AI to build better solutions for the customer. So right now we've equipped everybody, we've given them training, we've given them tools, but we are just getting to the point, and we've got 3 of them going right now, where we've launched 3 project teams where the general rule is you can't write code, but that is the deliverable. And we're not going to be more efficient on these projects. They're going to cost us more money because we're not that good at this yet. And instead of, for example, having the solution get coded by AI and then the human goes in and goes, ooh, that's not right, let me go fix that line of code. No, don't touch it. Tell the AI tool to fix it. Because it failed because you didn't give it enough instruction. It's like working with an entry-level employee that's not getting the right coaching and mentorship. And our people need to get better at instructing AI and inspecting its output.
Well, I was just going to ask you that, if you don't mind me asking. Well, one, do you guys homogenize what tools are allowed to use, or do you let the dev team dictate that?
We definitely have governance around it because it's for client deliverables.
Gotcha, okay.
We're thinking about an internal project where I don't care, you use whatever you want, let's experiment. In this case, we are buying enterprise licenses. We don't care which one you want so much, but we want to buy it and we want to secure it.
Right.
But we're not, so right now, that's what I mean. We're in this exploration stage where I don't want to stifle innovation and self-learning or experimentation by dictating thou shall only use these 3 tools because that's what we bought.
In those teams that you're pushing them to do everything AI, are they doing QA and everything with AI too?
They will be, everything.
Yeah, that's
everything.
great.
Even
That's
in
awesome.
fact, and I shouldn't really talk about this because we've got far better people to talk about it. But on one of them, we had it write the proposal, and then we used the artifacts of that to write the code.
Yeah.
So literally, start to finish, we just started the work, is to get AI infused everything on the team. So even how we were proposing it to the customer, how we wrote the contract, and try to treat those artifacts that come out of AI as the inputs back into AI to produce the software that we're creating under this contract. And to make your head spin a little bit, the solution we're building, of course, is using AI as part of the solution.
Right.
So it's why we picked that use case.
Did you produce the product from the proposal before you even won the work?
No.
Oh,
No,
Jesus.
we didn't.
Imagine
No.
that, do a proposal, feed it in, say, by the way, we're already done.
Right?
Hire
No,
us.
no, because it's not. I
Holy
don't look. We're not. I already know.
Milestone is award.
We're not gonna make money on this deal because it's. I think right, and that's the thing. All of this is about learning first and trying to get ahead of the curve, because we're cannibalizing our own business here. We're trying to do more work, more output with less people, and a lot of us charge by the hour.
But is it cannibalizing or is it force multiplying what you could, because we've had this debate internally too a lot, and you and I have talked about this a lot. Is there's a, this is just my opinion, is there's an attitude shift because there can be a concern about cannibalizing, and I very naturally I could see where people go to that thought of it, but how do you change the culture to think of it, not just think of it, to implement it as a force multiplier where you're getting more done more efficiently and then doing more, producing better, doing more, freeing up more time, being more creative, like the things we just mentioned. You know what I mean?
Of course I think about it that way because I think there's more work to be done than there are people or technology to do the work. But I embrace the cannibalize word. I've got a friend, a former customer, who said, hug the porcupine, embrace the thing you fear. And I feel that that's the moment we're in, is we have to get our employees, our clients, everybody to embrace that. Yeah, we are in fact cannibalizing our work. We're going to eat it before somebody else does. Because let me tell you something, if you're not cannibalizing your work, I'm coming to get it. And I want to instill that sense of urgency to come up with new ways of thinking how we do this. But we've got to figure out a way to do it safely, and at the tail end of this thing, do everything we have to do to make sure we fully understand what we've created, because what we don't want to do, and just like entry-level software developers can make mistakes that cost you a lot of money down the road. It's more expensive to fix code after it's written than to write it correctly the first time. So we've got to be really careful about, are we creating problems down the road for our clients? Because you tell AI to do something, you look at it and you're like, wow, it worked, and you move on. No, you have to inspect that work and not use AI to inspect that work to make sure you understand how it accomplished it, and that's the right way to do it, that it's secure, that it's compliant, that it's going to stand the test of time. Even if code becomes disposable because we just rewrite it every year because it becomes so efficient to do that, you still can't just trust that what got produced, we're nowhere near that stage yet, to trust what got produced is good enough to go. So I don't think we're going to save money yet. It's going to cost us a little bit more, but I think we have to change the way we think about it. And cannibalize to me it creates that urgency.
So we're moving along time-wise. I wanted to go into let's try some of our last one, which is your 30-day opportunity. And I've got one, but I'll share it in a minute. But I wanted to hear from some other folks as well. So have you guys got any? You can say 30-day. Mine's actually like a 360-day opportunity, so you can fudge it if you want.
That's exactly where I was going to go. This is going to take a
want.
whole lot longer than 30 days. And my gosh, Larry, I mean, you just created such a compelling vision. I love it. And what we're dealing with right now is our data is everywhere. And like right now, if we want to use AI, we're literally having to package up data and move it, and then it's dead data the moment that you copy it in and do something with it, right? So like getting our systems connected in a real-time way, so that we've got real-time access to AI, right? I mean, and that's going to take a minute for us.
For everybody. I mean, it's not just you. I mean, first, all your stovepipes of data, and look, again, infantry guy, but I get verticals mean they're not, unless they're lashed together, you can't synchronize and harmonize across all those verticals. So first thing you got to do is get your data integrated enough that you can layer on the algorithms.
Yeah.
Pull the things you
And
need.
it's a bigger issue than, a lot of people will respond to that with like, oh, well, yeah, just lay on some middleware, yeah, great. Well, I mean, I've worked at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I've supported them for 24 years. And it's a joke around the agency, but there are 18 different definitions for facility. And I know that all of our clients deal with that.
Yeah.
Right? So great. Install your middleware. It's not going to solve that problem. So and that's going to send your AI into an absolute tailspin when it gets to that. So there's like data. I think is what I'm going to be all about for the next year.
Joe, your data is kind of organized, isn't it? Like the product? I mean, it's already inside one product largely? I
Yeah,
use it.
I
I'm a
mean,
customer.
Yeah,
so-
a customer. So different. I'm the only part of the table is not a government contractor, not delivering services to the government. I'm delivering services to contractors, mainly in the human capital management space. And obviously, we're seeing a lot of impact of AI being built into the product, as far as remedial tasks, agents in there. HR professionals answer the same question 30 times a day from the employees about the PTO policy and the things like that, that now we can put agents in there that, you load all that information, and now you can just have the employees, ask their HR system, what's our policy? Is this an allowable expense? Other things that are HR related that you don't have to have a manager there that needs to answer the same questions or look it up and do that.
Yeah.
So certainly a part of the technology. It's been a big part. Obviously, we've had a lot of conversations about recruiting, applicant tracking, find people. It's been a big part of those products for a long time, of culling through resumes and things like that. You can put questions in there. These are the things that I'm looking for. This is the experience that I'm looking for. So certainly becoming more and more a part of software, and in this, I think that's the big things we're seeing in the market too. Is there I'm in the SaaS business. Everybody's like, is AI going to eat software? We've seen all the SaaS software stocks have all gotten crushed in the last 30 days because nobody knows the answer to this. Are we going to need AI in SaaS software, or is AI going to eat SaaS software, and there is not going to be SaaS software anymore? So that's kind of like a big question out there, is when AI just kind of take all that over. And then just from a business owner and a leader perspective, just kind of, then you just get back to the thought things we're talking, just how it impacts our day to day. I think you look at how a 30-day opportunity. I think I spend most of my day all day kind of in meetings and in conversations. Most of them are on, so many of those are remote and on team, and there's so much opportunity, I know, for me and my team to improve. Of, hey, it was like, hey, I don't take notes on paper anymore. Now I did them online. Well, now you shouldn't be taking notes at all. Be engaged in the conversation. Don't miss part of the conversation. You're trying to capture it, because the tools are there and they're spitting all that information back to you way better than you were ever going to be able to take those notes. And I think that's something I know just in our organization is probably the earliest thing that I'm seeing the adoption of AI is just the added productivity to the ongoing meeting environment, and then when we're meeting with prospective new clients, whereas that's the discovery conversation. I run sales teams. You always talk about, hey, you need a good discovery. You need to understand what the client's needs are. Ask the right questions. Well, what a greater tool than AI, but what are the best questions they ask? What's the best way to capture that? What's the best way to summarize that and then distribute that to the other team members to kind of create those solutions? So, I see a tremendous opportunity. We're doing things a lot of.
Have you gotten
very
yet to
old-fashioned.
where it falls apart? Like here's where it's working, but have you gotten yet to
Yeah, I think probably not as much, because I haven't adopted it enough to know where the
kinda what I'm
hallucinations
feeling.
are and the
Yep.
things are that, because we're still kind of new into it, that I haven't really maybe discovered where some of those things that, again, you have to still kind of proof the work a little bit.
Yeah, so we're at whatever, failing daily. I'm like, all right, let's do the rabbit hole, because sure, there's things that don't work, but I don't know we have enough of an adoption really in order to do it. We're trying to do agents, but this is the project I was going to tell you. This is my 30-day. That's more than 30 days, unless AI does it, I guess. But I said something like this to our VP of Ops. I said, because I want to be able to grow the company tenfold or run 10 companies with my back office. This is what I want by the end of this year, is what I said. I probably should have said 6 months, right? So nobody gets fired, nobody gets cannibalized, whatever. I've got a good team, but they're wasting their time, I think, a lot. So what I said was, take all the people out of it, take all the job titles out of it. Then you have a list of activities, tasks that are done, and then there's some workflows and connections between all them. Document all of that. Eliminate the stupid ones. We do that because we always done it kind of ones, right? And then after you've done all that, we lay in the capabilities of AI to accomplish the things that are non-value add but still need to be done, right? And then and the last part I think is the most important in a weird way, but then put the titles back on. The only reason we need a HR department is because someone needs to interact with HR from the outside. But the fact is, those are artifacts of the old world. Like, why do you have contracts, finance, HR? Why aren't they just called Alpha, Bravo, Charlie? It's because it's just an artifact of history. And I think to operate in the world, you still have to have them. But I don't think we necessarily have to view our rejigger of the entire thing and have it do anything to do with those departments. We'll put people, they'll still be there, but that's not how it's going to work. We all know that contracts and finance can be interchangeable at times. That's just an easy one to say. So, we're debating whether it goes here or there, but I think there are other things that are like that. So that's one of the projects. And I'll mention the other one because I did the rabbit hole thing with the whole company, and I asked everyone to take a look and define their non-value add activities that maybe need to be done. If you don't need to do it, don't do it, but need to be done, and figure out and use AI. I have no idea how to do it, but use AI in their own personal capacity and the tools we provide to cut that time in half. And if you do the math for us, that could save, with a few assumptions, something like 90,000 hours a year of productive time. And that's like 6 hours. It's like 6 hours a week per person is all that it really is. What the heck would you do with 90,000? You got to be and then we talk about creative. And the most important thing to me was, what are you going to do if you could find the 90,000? What are you going to do with those 90,000 hours? How are you going to improve the mission? How are you going to improve yourself personally? How are you going to contribute? How are you going to build relationships? Yeah. How about that? Like I get on the phone. These people that read their email all day long, get off your email, and part of the how do you track that? And how is part of your requirement actually going out there and building relationships? Because we know that's how the job really gets done, right? We know that. I don't know if everyone knows that.
Yeah, Bill, I go back to Larry's when I first walked in, which was 40 minutes.
Grab your mic.
Yeah, 40 minutes into this thing, Larry, and you were talking about how you prepare for a session. You do research on the people in the room. You build understanding and awareness by having the discipline to do the research. And you use AI now to produce questions you can ask. And then you made the comment, well, I may not even read it anymore, so I'm less prepared potentially if you keep following that thread, right? So part of this is, if you use AI to generate bandwidth, to your point about being artsy-fartsy, and then you have the discipline to use that additional bandwidth to make your organization incrementally better, then it's worthwhile. But if part of the process is the discipline where you build the understanding to then execute, somewhere something is lost. And so I have some concerns about, I want to leverage AI to be more effective so I can move faster, but then you need kind of checks and balances to make sure you're making use of that extra bandwidth, right?
Tony, you teed that up well for me, because I think of two major, did we say 30-day projects or 90?
30, and then I cheated. So
All right, good.
Whatever you want.
30 days, boy, that's rough. I think of two things. The first is, and Joe, you were talking about this a little bit too. I think it really applies that I want more inspection of everything. As the business gets bigger, it's harder to know what's going on everywhere. Yep. And I don't want to sound Big Brother or surveillance state, because that's not the purpose. But if every single phone call is recorded, if every single interaction is through our online ecosystem, whatever you're using, we use M365, whatever you're using. As someone that wants to know what's going on, I want to be able to ask questions about who's doing what, and find those patterns, Bill, that you were talking about, but have AI find those patterns. Mm-hmm. How can people be more efficient? What are they wasting time on? Where's our sales? Where are our sales folks being effective? Where are they not? And being able to keep an eye and look for the trends and understand what's actually going on, because I find that I'm often ready to make decisions and I'm about to press ahead, and I thought, let me ask one more question. And my mind completely changes about what we should do, because I'm uninformed. I can't know everything going on. But a lot of these decisions at this size still land with me, and I can't be that informed. So I kind of want to get everything on the radar. And I think the other piece is quality of work. We talked about this as AI is producing developers, as deliverables. How do we ensure quality? Well, right now we ensure quality, but we've got all these standards of how we do it, but we spot check. And just today I said to the team, why are we spot checking? We should inspect everything before it goes out the door now. We have the capability with AI to have it look for all the things we generally look for that are problematic. For example, is every single thing been peer reviewed before it goes out the door? We spot check that now for peer reviews, but we don't need to spot check. We should have 100% insurance that it happened. And then not just that it was spot checked, but that not that it was peer reviewed, but that the peer review was meaningful. And then, well, maybe AI is the peer. It's that third set of eyes looking at things. So to me, everything should get better, not necessarily more efficient, and not just to free up time, but it should really be infused in everything we do.
See, this is the reason I haven't slept in 2 months, because this is all I do. You just said, I said, we're going to ask people to go figure out how to save 50% of their time, and you said, we should have AI figure out for them how to save. So this is the rabbit hole.
You're asking the people that are probably feel
It's
like
a
their
rabbit
jobs
hole.
are going to be threatened. I know you said you want to run a business 10 times the size or 10 companies with the same back office.
That's right.
But you're inherently asking people whose entire world, their work world, revolves around what they do and what their capabilities are.
And they view their value to you that.
That's right.
So it's not natural for them.
They're biased.
Yeah, they are biased.
And
yeah,
so am I.
yeah.
You know, one of my favorite things I do with AI, I got this suggested prompt from M365. It said, want to know what you did last week? I was horrified when I saw that, and I clicked, yep. And
Blank
then
page.
you know what? I wish it was a blank page. The amount of trivial nonsense I was spending my time on
Right.
was right in my face.
Well, one of my questions to you when you were talking about the wanting to get all the information across the first thing in my head, and I'm asking this sincerely because I'm curious how you would handle it. To what fidelity, if you're thinking about command and control, right? From a leadership perspective, your EXO, your chain of management down helps filter the level of information so that you can get what you need without having all the details of every bloody interaction down the chain. When you can go across and I'm asking this because you've been going down this wormhole too, how do you, I'm afraid to say fidelity because fidelity could mean like you're getting everything, and that's not what I mean. How do you grade how deep into the pool you need to go to get the information you need to make good decisions, or to be able to drill down, double click in when you need? But how do you, a sincere question is, how do you train the AI to be at the right level in the water?
So I'm not thinking about this from a command and control perspective at all.
Sure.
It's the opposite. I want to learn. I want to learn what's going on in my own organization, and I want to ask questions to validate my understanding, change my perception of what people are doing, and validate thoughts I have about the business. So right now I go to one of the leaders of one of the groups, or sometimes I'll go down a level or two and say, how does this work? How does that work? And I waste their time asking them how all this works because I'm trying to validate an idea I have or a misunderstanding I might have, or maybe I want to save some money here or shift some resources one way or the other. I want to be able to interrogate this corpus of data that we've collected in a way that allows me to self-serve some of that and not distract everyone else. And it's not about command and control, because I don't believe in that style of leadership at all. And it's not about being a know-it-all.
Yeah.
It's about being curious, being able to learn, not interrupt everybody else, and be a better leader for the company, make better business decisions for the company. And it's not even about cutting costs most of the time. It's making sure that we're making good, informed decisions and getting to reason with a partner there. No different than bringing a consultant into the organization would be.
And that answers my question right there, is you're still deciding what level at which you're digging in.
Yeah, I want to be able to interact with an AI tool that can go deeper if need be.
Right.
And frankly, probably respond back, why are you asking this? Why are you wasting your time on this? You're stuck in that rabbit hole we keep talking about. Like, get yourself out of that. So it's collect all this material and make it actionable and try to use it in a way to improve my understanding of what's happening. Yeah. And then again, I don't want to lose the flip side of that too. It's also about the quality control that our customers are seeing, because when you first start out, by the way, I didn't start AIS and I don't own AIS. I'm the hired CEO. I've been here 26 years and I've done lots of jobs in the company. But there was a time when our CEO, our founder CEO, who's now retired, would interview every single person that worked in the company. And eventually you just can't do that anymore. And there was a time where I knew every single person on every one of my teams. Well, you can't do that beyond a certain level. So how do you ensure your clients are getting exactly what they should be getting, that service level that when you were 50 employees that they were getting, now you're 500 employees, they should be getting that same experience. And that's what I mean by quality checks. So not about command and control.
I got it.
All right, one more. Because
One question for Larry. Define command and control to me, because to me, command and control is kind of the tiered level of leadership, right, in terms of being effective, in terms of being a leader. So you have subordinates who have 3 to 5, people that report to them. They report up a kind of chain of command. But for you, command and control has a negative connotation, which I don't understand. So
Yeah,
I
good
would just
question.
ask.
I appreciate that.
Sorry to sidebar.
No, I appreciate you asking the question so I get to clarify. I am not an anarchist, and I do believe in hierarchy.
It's okay if you are.
I'm 6 years into being CEO at AIS, 26 years into my time here, and it's taken me 4 of the last 6 years to get myself down to 5 direct reports, 1 for each function. I don't want to make decisions for other people. I want to hold them accountable for the decisions they make. So there are people that sometimes make decisions I disagree with. And whether it's my direct report or one of their direct reports, if it's a decision that's not game-changing for the company, it's not a big enough decision, that's their call. My job is to hold them accountable for it. But when I'm holding them accountable for it, sometimes I believe there's additional context where, yeah, hindsight's 20/20, but if in the moment what they knew was that a bad decision was it a good decision. So it's not anarchy. It's not about it's not some socialistic commune type of thing at all. I like the hierarchy.
Well, thank you all for participating. I know we're going to go have dinner and we'll continue the conversation. It was great. And there's not enough time, right? We could have gone for another couple hours. I thought I'd ask Phil if you would like to just wrap this up in however way you'd like to wrap it up.
Well,
By the way, I totally put him on the spot. We didn't coordinate that.
I didn't know that was happening.
I thought he was going to sing a song.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that. Well, I'd just say to start, thank you, Bill, for pulling us together. I got a ton of value out of this personally from listening to what you all are dealing with, and I hope that each of you got some value. And I can see that taking. I think one of the reasons why this worked so well is because it was a focused topic, and that's something that has been missing in many of the other forums that I'm involved in. And so I think this is a good model for future conversations. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
I still think you should sing.
I think you should too.
That's after dinner.
Can,
Right.